You're listening to the Shipyard Cat Podcast, the unofficial SAFC podcast for fans everywhere.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the pod. Tonight, probably because we lost again, Adam's handed over the hosting duties to myself. Obviously, I am joined tonight by Adam and by Kev. So, Adam, how are you today, mate?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. A little bit upset about that result, but hey, there's a lot of positives to take in that game, and I think we'll cover that off. So yeah, not too
How are
bad.
you then, Kev?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I think, as we've said off pod, mate, disappointed with the result, but also kind of was expecting it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I don't think we can be too hard on ourselves from my point of view. We'll get the basics covered. Obviously, Arsenal won 3-0. I think we can all agree that the scoreline flattered them, really. I don't really feel that was a 3-0 game. Obviously, I'll take your lads' thoughts on it in a minute or two. Obviously, I think we gave a pretty good account for ourselves, but it's just that what we said before, we're lacking in that final third converting chances. Whereas Arsenal, let's face it, were ruthless. So, look, may as well start with the goals. I mean, we did have a chance early on with Robbie. Obviously, the ball came in. Raya went to claim it. Obviously, he's coming down. It sort of bounces it off of Ballard's head. It falls to Robbie. I've seen it back. I'm not actually even sure that was on target or not. From one angle, it looked like it may have just been going wide. But the Arsenal players got back there and defended, well and cleared the ball. Then, I think personally, I think we sat a bit too deep. I think when you look at the goals, I mean, to me, what a strike by Zubimendi. But could that be avoided? Where's us? I mean, we're sitting in a low block. I did say, I think in the preview, it'd probably be 2 banks of 5. I mean, with that first goal, your thoughts on it, Adam? What do you take from it?
Don't get me wrong. As a former defender, for me personally, you need to close your man down. I think if somebody closes them down, Zubimendi down, that takes a deflection and goes out for a corner. But at the same token, you've got to look at the accuracy of Zubimendi. He knew exactly what he was doing, like what was said about Talby the other week against Burnley. He knows where that bar is, and he knows if he hits it on the right acute angle, that can beat the keeper. And I think that's what done Roos in that very moment, I think.
Kev, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? When you looks in, and yeah, you do that shot a dozen times. Half the time it's just wide. A couple of times the keeper saves it, and then those odd ones, it just slots in perfectly. And if anything, I would say that probably is Arsenal's luck. But we'll get into their other luck that they have in the middle of the pitch. Well, I'll let you run that bit. But no, for me, it's good strike, and yeah, that's why they're top of the league. They just seem to get everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's it. It was a great strike. He cut across it just enough to sort of get it. It's a pretty fine gap that he got it through, and obviously it's going off the, inside of the post. It's they always look better when they hit the post or the crossbar and go in. Look at i.e. Towie's last week. But I think you're right. I think on another day it doesn't get quite that bend on it, and it just hits the outside of the post and comes back out.
Yeah.
Or it gets too much bend on it, and Rivson saves it. But to me, and I think it's the same with the second goal as well. When you see, Trey Hume did defend Trossard really well on the second goal, but how much possession and where, why are we just sitting back there? We had an opportunity to clear that ball as well. And Mukiele sent a sort of, I think, I'm not going to clear it because he didn't have a great option. But that's where surely you put your foot through it. I mean, am I wrong with that?
No, I do see where you're coming through in regards to Mukiele. I think it was one because of how acute football we're playing, and we want to make sure the ball is always at the player's foot or ahead, for example, like of Bobby to hold it up and run with it a little bit or something like that. I think that's possibly why Mukiele was hesitant to just go, you know what, I'll just hoof it up the pitch because they'll just start another wave of an attack. And I think at that moment, like the lads addressed it effectively at the end of the game. We're like, we weren't at our 100% best. This is where we need to work on. So I think it's little niggles like that where Regis will get them at the end of the game or ready for like training say tomorrow night and be like, right, this is the niggles we need to work out. If that comes in an error, just get rid of it as quick as you can, hoof it up, and take that risk of another attack, and then you can get rid of it again.
Kev, what are you making on the way that we sat so deep?
It was like chess because for me, Arsenal seemed to do the same thing. For a team that are at home, top of the league, wanting to push for the champ, to win, Arsenal seem to just sit there on their armchairs waiting for us to come to them. And obviously, that's what they're after set pieces, which is my word, the most pathetic attempt they're doing because they just kept throwing themselves on the floor. Every chance they got, they were down on the ground. And for me, I think that's all they wanted to do was just sit back and wait till we left a gap and then go for the throat, so to speak.
That was the funny thing for me. I've never seen an attacking team like that at 2-0 park the bus.
Yeah, yeah, I've got to give you that one. I mean, obviously, we did have, by the stats, 51% possession, which I don't suppose there's many teams that are going to go to the Emirates and have more possession than Arsenal, especially the way they play football. Um,
Mhm.
the frustrating thing for me on it is what I said like, in the preview, really, that I'd like us to leave someone up the pitch.
Yeah.
If they want Robbie defending because of his heading ability and his strength, then, leave Talby up the pitch. You know,
Mm.
make them think about that. But when you've got them two banks of five, it's really difficult. Then you are inviting the pressure on yourselves. Um, yeah, Kev, you're right. They did throw themselves to the ground constantly. Um, and look, we've said it before. The teams at the top of the table, the so-called top six, as they are, or whatever, do tend to get favourable decisions. Um, I don't think the ref had any real shockers as such, but there's little bits and pieces. I mean, there's one sort of like at the end where I think Havertz, stamps on the back of Alderete's foot. Now that wasn't any attempt at the ball, and there was a lack of a card there. Little things like that. But I do feel that we were quite lucky at the end of the first half when obviously Gabriel Jesus went through against Ruffs. Obviously takes it round him. Bit of a coming together with Ballard. And obviously the penalty was given. It was overturned because, according to the lines, Jesus was offside.
Marginally.
I don't think he was personally because both of his feet were inside his own half.
Mm.
And yes, you lean with your body, but it goes back to it. It's sort of like his feet were still further back than what, Ronaldo's were. And I don't, to me, he was inside his own half still. And I think when you're leaning,
Mm.
I just don't agree with it. But look, we got the benefit of that one. Um, and then we're sort of like we're trying to force the game. Really, we're trying to push, and the gaps start coming at the back. Obviously, they scored the third. Could they have had a fourth, possibly a fifth? After that, and to me, it's not really a fair reflection on the game. I mean, your lads' take on that, Kev. I mean, I'll come to you on that. I mean, with the way that we were pushing at the end of the game to try and get something out of it and leaving all them gaps.
It's one of those, isn't it? They always say, is it 2-0's a dangerous scoreline? because the team that are 2 up, they're sort of flat and relaxed, and the team that are chasing the game do exactly that. They go all gung ho for the result, and sadly for us, it was against Arsenal. You can't get away with it. You know, it would probably been for me. I think a 2-0 would have probably been a fair score, and 3-0 makes it look like we got absolutely done. And I don't think we did.
Mhm.
You know, like you said, Robin, the possession. You know, we were up on them. Shots, okay, yeah, but it's Arsenal. They shoot from absolutely everywhere in the hope that it'll do something, or they'll get a set piece from something. So, you know, that's the telling fact for me is how often you see them clatter the ball against someone or try and do something to try and, yeah, 9 out of 10 of their attempts were probably not even an effort to get a goal. It was an effort to get a set piece, be it a handball for a free kick or a dodgy corner. That's all they were looking for. And I think that's what Regis tried to do in the counter attack was when we then got set pieces, we did them different. I'm sure everyone probably knows the fact that Kelly didn't take throws.
Yeah.
You know, Hume was put on them because Arsenal are so well versed in defending a set piece that we didn't bother because we knew if we threw a ball into the box, Arsenal would know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
That actually takes you on to another point. Obviously, with one time we did throw a ball in the box. Obviously, Ballard gets wrestled to the ground by Rice and another player. Just before the half time, VAR looked at it and obviously decided that probably because it was Arsenal, they weren't going to give it. Now, how many times have you seen other teams get those decisions and get the penalty?
Well, it happened to us earlier in the season, if you think about it, when we played Brentford, because Brentford got one and it was saved by Roofs. And then, no longer than 2 minutes later, we got it and we scored it with Enzo. It's one of these things, it's that interpretation, isn't it, of what. I'm just going to say it as it is. It's an interpretation of what's deemed a fault by the referee at that time. Of course, if it's Arsenal, if it's a Man United, if it's a Chelsea, Liverpool, whoever, it's not going to be given. You know for a fine fact being it's not. If you're playing like a team likes of, say, Brentford, you've got probably about a 75% chance you're going to get that foul. For me, in that game, I know I don't want to keep on talking about refs consistency and stuff like that, but I put in the chat, and you both saw it, was the fact being, I'm going to use Calafori. Calafori pretty much wrestled one of our players down, no card. 2 minutes later, we go up the other end, we put a little nudge on Subamendi, there's a card. And that was it for me. And one of the ones what I've seen them now come out and say was, oh, Bobby should have been sent off for his tackle. I'm sorry, but you had two men trying to take Bobby on, and Bobby still managed to get Madueke's headband. He nearly took that as a souvenir.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is just that inconsistency. I mean, the thing is, though, to me, it goes back to the Man City visitors game earlier on in the season where Dan Burn throws himself to the ground and it was given because the Man City player apparently wasn't looking at the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Now there's two Arsenal players not looking at the ball and playing the man. Almost had the shirt off his back, and yet they deem that to be okay. I mean, that it's one of those things. It's gone. Yeah, I think I'm more disappointed with the fact that we conceded 3 goals when really it wasn't a 3-0 win. That it's just a bit upsetting. But look, let's move on from that because we've got another game coming up on Wednesday night, thick and fast. Back to the Stadium of Light and Liverpool without Dominic Soboslai.
Good job you're hosting.
quite bizarrely, because obviously he got sent off late on in a game where, I mean, if anyone saw that, common sense says you just carry on and the ball goes in the back of the net, which it did. But then they look at the fact that Haaland had obviously pulled Szoboszlai, so they could rule the goal out for that, and it would have been a yellow card for Haaland. But then just before that, Haaland's actually through on goal, would have tapped it in the back of the net himself, but Szoboszlai then pulls him back to be able to get into the position. And obviously, red card for Szoboszlai. It's absolutely bizarre, because like you say, common sense has now gone from the game completely. And I mean, letter of the law, the correct decision was sort of made, and it's benefited us. But obviously, Wednesday night, we're facing Liverpool. Bit of a resurgence lately. Right, they lost today against Man City, but it's Man City at the end of the day. Like, we just played Arsenal and, lost to them because it's Arsenal. They're up the top of the Premier League for a reason. So, how do we see Wednesday night going? Kev?
I mean, it's probably one of the toughest games to happen at the Stadium of Light in terms of where they want to be. And obviously, defending our unbeaten home record, it's a difficult one. Obviously, there will be a sense of injustice running through the Liverpool squad. I feel they're going to probably want almost like prove a point against us. And that's not because it's us. I think it's whoever they were going to face next. Liverpool are going to want to go for blood. Is it a benefit to us that Szoboszlai's off? Absolutely, because his free kick was sublime today. And he's probably, at the moment, one of their best players. He's pushing everything. They're pushing everything through that midfield. And at the minute, I would say Salah's almost got a reprieve because where Salah seems to have dropped off, Szoboszlai has stepped up. And obviously, he's a number 8, but he's very good at getting forward and back. Like, that's one thing I will say to him is he is almost the Jordan Henderson that they let go in terms of what he can do and what he can do. He can play, he pulls the strings. And for me, thankfully, he's going to be missing on Wednesday night because, we need we're going to need everything we've got. We're still obviously without Granite, so that's not me saying that he's the be all and end all for us, by the way, but you definitely notice that he's missing.
Adam, your take on this? I mean, do you think just what Kev mentioned there about obviously they come into the stage of light where we're still unbeaten, do you think that now puts a target on our back?
The undefeated thing is always good at the minute, is going to always be a target on our back, regardless who we're playing at the minute, whether it be Villa, Liverpool, City, whoever. It's just one of these things of how we cope. Effectively, that's the top and bottom, how we cope. Obviously, we played a very attitudist, I know that's not really a word, but of Burnley. Parker came in and was like, right, you know what, I'm going to do what I do best, and that's bully them. It didn't work. We read Burnley's game book straight away. And that's the thing with Liverpool. I think Liverpool, yes, as Kev mentioned, he's a quality player. He can read those channels, and his vision of the ball as well is next to none. It's going to be a test for Liverpool to see how they go without such a talisman. Don't get me wrong, I know they've got an abundance of players sat on that bench ready just to come in the fold, like your McAllisters and things like that. But for me, it's more, are they going to want to come back at us in anger in regards to what they'll class as in injustice? Because we always know how much they get VAR decisions. Like, are they going to come as an injustice and go, right, this is what should have happened against City, and they're going to come all guns blazing? Or is it going to be the injustice from when we played them at Anfield, where they were like, we were second best. We should not have got a draw. We should have been beaten. Let's return the favour and beat them at home. It's going to be one of those. For me, personally, I've spoken to a couple of Liverpool fans today. To me, I think Liverpool's going to come to the ground and be like, wait a second, we don't like it here. And then as long as we can bring the noise, which I've mentioned on several pods, and you guys agree, is if we bring that noise, make Liverpool players not being able to hear each other, that's going to be the difference maker. We need to do that and bully Liverpool.
Fair point, mate. So, how do you see us setting up then, Adam? What do you think, sort of formation-wise, the Bree's going to go with?
Honestly, my opinion, I know people don't really like it, is I'm going to say 3 at the back and then 2 2 wing backs. Nearly said running backs. We're not at the NFL. I think we'll have Hume and Mugieli. I just something tells me. Sorry, Ronaldo. Sorry, apologies. I just something tells me is we're not. We're just going to show Liverpool. Come at us. Show us what you've got, but we've got better. And I do think this will be the game where, personally speaking, Gear Trout will come in. I know we can't really say we don't want to put rest Hume and stuff like that, but I think this is the game, especially for him, to come in, solidify himself, and go, this is why Liverpool, I didn't want to come to yours. End of.
So, where do you see Hertrauda coming in and for who?
That's the thing. I can't pinpoint who I want to drop. It's just one of those things where I think there is a role for him, but it's, as you said there, it's who do you effectively somewhat drop. It's going to be one of those. For me personally, coming into this game, I wouldn't mind seeing Nielsen getting a full home debut. That's the truth for me. I want to see what he can do from the start. I know he didn't get much time in against Arsenal, but what do you expect? You're 3-0 down. You've got 7 minutes to make a difference. You're not going to make a difference that much, are you? Unless you score somehow a screamer from 40 yards on your first touch. And then I want Robbie. I need Robbie up top. I think his hold-up play is just next level at the minute.
So, I mean, obviously, you're saying a 3 with the wing back. So it's like, I mean, who are you looking at? Are you looking at playing somebody alongside Bobby or someone in behind him?
Honestly, I would say like you could put Enzo in behind him. It would make sense because that's where Enzo's playing his best football for me at the minute. But you know what I'm like with Enzo. Enzo has to always have a permanent start on the pitch.
Well, I mean, if it's not Enzo, it would have been Edward Michu, wouldn't it? As long as they're a young Frenchman, you don't seem to care who they are.
Exactly.
Kev, your thoughts on it, mate?
I would almost say keep it unchanged. Is Arsenal a blip in the road? No, it was Arsenal. I would go with the same team that played against Burnley. I would almost go with the same sort of setup as we did against Burnley and just go for it. At the end of the day, Liverpool need this more than we do. We're probably a case of going and getting a few more points now, and we're kind of happy days. I know that sounds a bit arrogant, but the way the table is shaping up, I'd almost be tempted to say settle for a draw if you need to. Go for the win, obviously, but yeah, I would say for Nelson, you're probably looking at a case of bringing him on 70th minute, 60th, 70th minute, giving him a bit more of a run out. It's unfair putting him out there against Arsenal because with, what was it, 8 minutes to go, allegedly without Arsenal lying on the floor, there wasn't much left to give on that game. And that's what it was for me, I think, in terms of time on the pitch. It would have just been giving him a chance to kind of get involved and also probably avoid the likes of Hume, Talby, etc., getting injured or carded. Because that's what we need to be avoiding, isn't it? Is whilst Xhaka's injury's still ongoing, obviously Trey Hume's in the hot seat. Well, the last thing we need is Trey Hume getting himself into silly situations where he ends up missing a game and then we're kind of like rock, paper, scissors, who's the captain?
Yeah. I think the other thing for me in the regards to Nielsen coming on against Arsenal was more the fact being it was more just this is the Prem. this is the arenas you're going to be used to and get used to. I'm not saying he obviously hasn't been to big stadiums and stuff like that when he was playing at Atlanta. Like, I think it's more just go out, have a bit of fun. This is your team. Get used to them. I know he's obviously trained with us and stuff like that, but it's kind of hard to explain logical thoughts. But it's more just go out, have a bit of time, get yourself used to the ball and stuff like that. And that's why I think I'm in more agreement with you, Kev, about the 60, 70-minute mark. I wouldn't mind just eventually when he's fully fit to go, right, go, do it from the beginning.
I mean, that will come, Adam, to me.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, most people have only seen highlight reels of him and stuff like that, where he looks an absolute talent. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, he has played Champions League football and so on. He's one of those. The potential with him is, the very top, elite level. It's an interesting one because obviously there's other players, that are there. Taube's doing nothing wrong at the moment. He's playing well. You've got Romain Mundle that's been, I'm going to say, he's, apart from, I think, first half at West Ham where he had a stinker and not got involved, he's coming on. He's starting to show, what he did in the Championship with starting to take people on a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a few shots and things like that, which is what we need. To me, it's, Angulo coming in depends on setup.
Yeah.
Because if you go you know, three at the back with wing backs, and then, where are you playing your Taube, your Angulo, Munda? Where are you playing these wide players? Because realistically, you've got Hume and, Ronaldo, which should be doing the wide work. So I think to get the best out of Angulo, I think it might be in a 4-4-2 sort of thing, or 4-2, 3-1 type situation, where you have your back four, you have your two sitting midfielders and you have your more attacking two on the wing with the man just behind Bobby, whether it be Lafay, Diarra, etc. I think, we are missing Granit Xhaka. Is it too soon from this week? It probably is. I mean, realistically, I think we're looking at Fulham at home. I think there's no point risking him in the FA Cup match, next weekend either. Let's rest him and see how we go. But yeah, it's an interesting one to see.
Let's throw a stir in there then. Xhaka gets fit. Obviously, we know he's instantly going to come back in the team. Would you say go back to the way we lined up before he got injured? So you would have him in the middle three with Siddiqui. So it'll be Siddiqui, Xhaka, Diarra. Would you go back straight away to that three? Or would you say Diarra, say, on the bench and then come on for, say, like a Siddiqui or something like that?
Well, I mean, you're talking of that back three as if that was the back three, but the fact that Diarra hadn't been playing, and the three was really Xhaka, Lafay, and Siddiqui. So you've just taken your golden boy out of the team.
No, what I mean is like we know Xhaka's going to come in, but I mean like before Diarra was injured, Lafay still played, but we had that three of them three, and then obviously Diarra got his injury, so it just stayed Xhaka and Siddiqui.
I mean, I sort of know really what you're coming at there, but so we're then putting Lafay back on the wing.
Yeah,
But if
true.
we're doing that, you're taking out Taube, Mundle, and Gulo.
Yeah.
This is the thing. This is what Labry's got to deal with now. He's got a squad of players which are very good,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got to find the solution to get the best out of these players.
Yeah, true.
I mean, obviously now they talk about it. That we have your starting 11, and then you have your five subs that can come on your finishers, so to speak. Would it be a change in what Labry's done before and start gambling with more substitutions earlier in the game?
I
Kev, your
agree.
Yeah,
thoughts
I
on
was going
that?
to say,
Ain't gonna
let Kev
happen,
have
is
that
it?
one.
Like, come on. we know he's a creature of habit is probably the right way of putting it. The way I look at it is, yeah, Xhaka naturally is going to come straight back into your squad. I think realistically, Diarra is the one that gets taken out of the equation, or Siddiqui. I mean, how many games is it before Siddiqui is injured? He takes a lot of punishment, and there's only so many times he can get kicked in the ankles before he's going to end up like Xhaka with a sort of
For me,
an issue of sorts. Yeah, but no, for me, I think he comes back in. Sadly that does mean kicking one of the other lads out of the squad, but he's your captain. You can't bring the likes of a Xhaka into the squad and then not use him. That would be
Mm.
like saying, "Oh, we've brought in a elite goalkeeper. We're not going to use him. Or we're going to bring in a top striker. Oh, we're not going to use him."
Yeah, true.
I mean, that is the big question, isn't it? What do we do when that squad's fully fit? Who's going to play in what positions?
Yeah.
But to say that's thankfully something that Labrise has got to deal with, and he's not going to be able to keep every single person happy. I mean, obviously we did see it, earlier on in the transfer window with the rumour of obviously, Hatrauda going to Liverpool, which, thankfully the club said no to. But obviously he was, I think, by all accounts, quite keen to, you know, link up with Arne Slot. So I mean, he's one of those. I mean, he's on loan with an option. Is it a thing? Do we buy him in the summer? Which is he going to want to sign, knowing that there's an interest from the likes of Liverpool?
Yes.
It's. I mean, yeah, but is it what? I think the option that we've got is like, we can sign him if we want. It's like the Lafay thing. It was already
Mm.
agreed, but we could be
I
a thing
think
that we might buy him and then sell him immediately on.
that's what I was just about to say. That could be the thing there, because obviously, as you mentioned, we've got first refusal on him, like what we did with Enzo. We had first refusal on him. For me, I think it's going to be. It could work out that way. Yes, we're buying for, say, I think the rumor was, what is it, 15 to 18 million, I think it was, or something along those lines, and then could flip him for, say, 25 to Liverpool if we really wanted to. Or is it that we just go, thanks for your services, you've done amazing. There you go, Liverpool, you can have your man. But personally speaking, I generally think come the summer, this is where I love Kev's thought on it, is I think come the summer, Liverpool will go, you didn't come before, why are you going to come now? Let's move on to a different target. That's the way their normal logic is.
Um, Not necessarily. Secondly, Adam, I just want to correct you slightly. It wouldn't seem right if I didn't. We didn't have first refusal on Enzo. It was an
I thought we did, sorry.
obligation.
Oh, obligation, sorry.
It
Thank
was
you.
an obligation. We didn't have a choice in it. The promotion triggered that part of the deal.
Yeah, sorry.
So look, just to get, I do believe that is the case with the Chowder as well. I do believe that there's an obligation in there. Um, which, like I say, it might be a case of we buy him and then sell him.
Yeah,
It all depends what happens with him getting into the Dutch World Cup squad and what happens over there.
yeah, exactly.
In America, Canada, and Mexico. Why they just can't have it hosted in one country now beats me. But look, let's finish it up, lads, with some predictions. So, Adam, we'll start with you.
For me, I'm going 8-1. I'm actually confident that we'll come away with the result. I just think our home form and that home atmosphere is just going to be enough to get us across the line, and I think that's going to throw Liverpool massively off. And obviously, the rock that they've had against City today, I think a lot of their players will be like, where do we go now? And I think the resentment's starting to build up against Slot.
Kev?
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, Adams kind of nicked the scoreline I was going to go for. I think both teams are going to get a goal. I just hope for us, it's going to probably be. I would like? I would like to go 2-0 up and see how they react.
Yeah.
but that's where I think they'll get the second. That's where they'll get a goal, and that'll put the pressure on.
Mhm.
I just hope we get decisions that go the right way. I didn't get to mention it on the Arsenal review, but for me, it's the protected big six. Referees seem to always sway their decisions in favour of the those big teams. How often did we see Arsenal's players leading with the elbow and nothing given? But we're not here to review that. Obviously, we're running probably short on time now. But yeah, for me, I think a 2-1 win and just keep that home form, that fortress of light as it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in agreement with both of you. I think it is probably going to end up 2-1.
Yeah.
I think it's imperative, though, that we do score the first goal. I think with what they've got going forward with the likes of Ekitike and obviously Salah and Gakpo, they're a very dangerous counter-attacking team with the pace they've got. So obviously we got caught against Arsenal in the end with, the counter which flattered them. So yeah, I think we'll win, but I say it's going to just be by a goal, and it will be a bit of a nervy one. Would I take the draw? Certainly, because I do think that, if we can keep that unbeaten run going on longer, it's helping us. We're
Mhm.
almost at the magic 40 points mark. And the way that other results are going, I mean, we might need all of those 40 points to stay up.
Yeah.
So look, we'll wrap it up there. So lads, thanks for joining me. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks very much, mate. It means a lot that you took the hot seat for once, and I can take a seat back.
And thanks to you, Kev. Maybe, after, the next loss away from home, you might get to host it. I'm sure if we do beat Liverpool, Adam, we'll be jumping back in the hot seat.
Maybe.
Thanks for having me, mate. And yeah, good on you for jumping in the hot seat. We know Adam likes to get out of it when the going gets tough.
Always.
Yeah, it's not great doing them when we lose, but they have to be done. So for our listeners, thank you very much. Obviously, any questions, just hit us up, Spotify, X, Instagram, Apple Pod, etc., wherever you listen to us, and obviously on YouTube now for the audio files. And from us, we shall see you on the next one.